Hi there, gorgeous, and a very happy, affordable April to you. If you have not heard, every video coming out this entire month has an affordable or drugstore theme to it, and I'm also producing videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you'd like to be notified of new content like this in the future, please subscribe, and thank you if you do. Today I'm showing you an in-depth, real-time tutorial, which means very little editing, if any at all, on how to accomplish the outer V. And the best part is I'm showing you how to do it with a $1 eyeshadow brush. Why? Because I want to prove to you that you don't need to spend a lot of money on your makeup brushes to get top-notch professional quality results. It really comes down to the technique and the application so much. So that's my goal with this video. I'll be showing you everything up close, the whole eye look included. If you don't want to see the whole eye look, then you can go ahead and skip to this number right here and it will take you directly to the outer V tutorial. But if you would like to see how this whole look came to be, I'll include all those steps for you beforehand also. Hope that you will find this helpful. This is a look that I quite often get asked what it is when I wear it in videos, so I did want to show you how to recreate a classic, neutral, my most favorite kind of eye look. And I'm going to chop this up a little bit more. It's not going to be shown completely in real time. I'm going to show you enough to where you get an idea of how to create it, but I'm going to save the more real-time techniques for when I get to the outer V and not edit that part of the video at all. So the first thing I'm doing here is applying an eyeshadow primer. I'm using the one from Milani. This is one of my absolute favorites. For oily lids especially, you do want to make sure that your eyeshadow primer is fully dry before beginning the application, because if you apply the eyeshadow while the primer is still tacky on the eyes, you can end up with unevenness, splotchy results. The eyeshadow doesn't blend properly. When you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, if you apply a powder to a wet surface, it's not going to apply as evenly as if you would have applied it to a dry surface. So if you've had problems with that in the past, keep that in mind. And while I'm waiting on that to set here, I'm going to show you the eyeshadow palette I'll be using today. This is from Alter Ego Cosmetics. It's their Temptress palette. Looks like that. Now, the palette that I usually use to create the look that I'm wearing, and I'll just give you an example here so you can see which look I'm talking about, is my Viseart palette. And I absolutely love this palette. As you can see, it's well loved. They've got 2 holes running in it, excellent quality. But I wanted to give you a more affordable way to recreate my most favorite classic makeup look, and that's why I'm using this eyeshadow palette today. So let's see, we are just about dry with the eyes. Now the other thing that I do before I apply any of my primer, or before I apply any of my eyeshadow, sorry, is I apply an eyeshadow that matches my skin tone, and my go-to is Wet n Wild's Brulee. So pick a shade that matches your unique skin tone and apply this on the brow bone. And again, just as waiting for your primer to fully dry, this will help with blending. It creates a smooth surface so the eyeshadow glides on rather than skipping and creating an uneven surface. You can also use translucent powder here. You do not have to use an eyeshadow. And as I'm creating this look for you, I'll show you the shades that I usually use in the Viseart palette in case you have that one on hand and you'd like to use that instead of the Temptress palette that I'm showing you here. So from the Viseart palette, I usually start with this shade right here, and I love it because it is a cool toned neutral. And the Temptress palette has one very similar to that shade with Uptown. Using a Sedona Lace EB09 brush, I'm going to take a little bit of that eyeshadow, tap off the excess, and apply this into the crease. And if you have hooded eyes or semi-hooded eyes, and if you're not familiar with what that eye shape is, I'll show you a picture here so you can get an idea. It's basically where you have excess skin above the lid that comes down onto the lid, so you can't always see the lid when the eyes are open. And mine are semi-hooded, so what I typically will do is bring the eyeshadow up a little higher than normal. So that's why I go closer to the brow bone than not, because when my eyes are open, you can see better when you have it a little bit higher. Using that same Wet n Wild Brulee eyeshadow, I'm going to blend out the edges. My go-to blending brush is this one from IT Cosmetics. It is a dual-ended brush. This is their number 5 Luxe brush, and I love this side for blending because it's super dense. Sorry, my hubby is having issues right now with Jet, so I'm gonna have to take a break here and go help him out. I'll be right back. Back to makeup. It's nice to be able to escape every now and then. Okay, the next shade that I would use for this look would be the white from the Viseart palette, but I'm going to use the one called Lace from the Alter Ego palette. I usually apply that to the inner half of the lid. And if you wanted to change this look up a little bit more, you could also go in with a shimmery color of any kind. A really bright silver would be really pretty here. And I'll usually go back with the same color that I used in the crease, and I'll use that to fill in the outer half of the lid. And then once I have a good amount applied, I'll wipe the brush a little bit and then go in between the colors with nothing on the brush and blend them together. Very simplistic eye look, and we are ready to apply eyeshadow into the outer V. But before I show you that in depth, I'll first share the brushes that I use quite frequently to achieve the most professional results. I rotate between these 3. They all look very similar, as you can see here, and they all are pretty much the same brush. The only difference that you'll find between them is differences in price. The first one is from Sigma. This is the E25. The second one is from AOA Studio, and this is their E128. And the third one is from Crown. This is their C511. The one that I'll be using today is the one from AOA Studio. This is part of their Paw Paw set, so the set itself is $10 for 10 brushes, which comes out to $1 for this brush. And I use brushes like this for outer V work specifically because they are so densely packed and they have a smaller shape to them, which makes it a lot easier to get into the tight area that you have there in the outer V. It's a much more precise application when the bristles are tightly packed and they have a tapered design. So what I usually use for creating this look is the dark brown from the Viseart palette, which is this shade right here. And from the Alter Ego palette, I am going to be using the shade called After Hours, which is that deep brown. And I always recommend starting with a very small amount on the brush. You can always add eyeshadow, but it's a lot harder to subtract. So add as you go, start with a small amount, get a feel for it, and go from there. To find your outer V, you want to take your finger and feel the outer part of your eye. And when you start to feel the bone right there, how it dips in, you can actually place your finger into it if it doesn't bother you to touch the outer part of your eye. And you can feel where the orbital bone stops and then your eye is. There's a little dip in the eye, but it's basically this section of the eye. That's the outer V. And so what I'll do to start this is take that eyeshadow and apply it right in that dip and begin to move the brush around in small circles to help distribute that eyeshadow evenly. And I had a very small amount, and this is what I'm talking about, very, very small amount to start. That was one of the things I discovered when I started doing my own eyeshadow many years ago, is if I had too much on the brush, then it was just too much. It got too dark too fast. But I figured out starting with a smaller amount is the better way to go. And then you can start to extend that outer V some more if you want also. And this is a really great technique if your eyes are downturned, like my eyes turn down on the outer corners. So when you emphasize the outer V, it helps to draw them up a little more. And you want to make sure that you're not pushing the eyeshadow further down. You want to be drawing it up in a triangle shape. And so you can see what I'm doing there. I'm making sure to avoid this part of the eye to give more lift. And then, if you feel like you've applied a little too much, another tip that I like to use is I'll go back with the crease color that I worked with in the beginning very small amount once again, and I'll apply that back into the crease to blend the crease color into the outer V color. And this is usually the kind of steps that do get edited out of my eyeshadow tutorials, simply because I feel like it's redundant. People don't want to see it over and over again. But in these real-time tutorials, I feel like a little bit more helpful for you to see all the steps, all the blending that I do. And then I'll go back with my blending brush, a little bit of Wet n Wild's Brulee. And if you slip outside of that outer portion of your eye, you want to kind of envision a line that extends from the outer corner of your eye up to the tip of your eyebrow, like the tail of my eyebrow is right there. So if you go beyond this line right here, outside of it, you can fix that by taking the blending shade I used in the beginning and blending the edge. Some people will use tape. I've seen that. I don't like to do it because I feel like that causes premature wrinkles on the outer corners. So I find that using a little bit of eyeshadow helps to clean that up. You can also use translucent powder here. And then sometimes too, what I will do is bring that dark brown down onto the outer third of the eye to blend everything a little bit better. And then go back with that crease color again, blend that over the top so it's not so harsh there. And that's pretty much it. If you want to further emphasize the outer corners of the eyes, and that's pretty much it. And if you want to further emphasize the outer corners of your eyes and add even more lift, you can also add a winged liner. That really helps to draw the eyes up even further. And what I usually do with my Viseart palette is I'll take the same dark brown that I used in the outer V, and I'll use that to create a smoky wing. So I'll show that to you here real quickly. I'm using an angled brush. This is the MAC 263, using that shade After Hours once again. I edit this out for time purposes. But what I usually do is apply the brown along the upper lash line and then create a wing using the angled design of that brush and dragging it back into the eye. And there you can see what I mean. It really helps to emphasize downturned eyes and give them more lift and appeal, as opposed to not doing anything at all. Now, the eye look that I showed you here today is not an exact dupe for the Viseart palette that I would traditionally use, but it's still such a gorgeous look, and I love how cool toned it is. So if you'd like to see the differences side by side, I'll show you here what the Viseart side looks like compared to the look that I created here for you today. Affordable side looks just as good as the high-end side in my opinion, and I really love how all of the shadows came together, even though they are not an exact match for the Viseart palette. Again, just goes to show you, you don't need to spend a lot to get great quality results. So I hope that you found this helpful today. Feel free to share your tips below, and if there is another real-time tutorial, technique, application that you would like to see me show in the future, feel free to leave your requests below. And if you'd like to see other videos I've done in this series in the past, I'll have those videos listed and linked for you in the description box. Thanks for being here, for taking the time to watch. I look forward to seeing you again next time.